Alright guys, I got my newly modified twin slow ultra stick. The motors are off of a twin timber as well as the dual ESC. Everything else is original, I think, from the slow stick, except the tires, but that's an old mod. I'm going to start out with some taxi tests and see how it feels. I think it'll have a lot of power. I don't know about those pods, those little nacelle mounts for the motors. They're pretty sketchy, but we will see how they handle it. I should probably check my CG since I'm running no front camera as I normally planned to. I also put a lighter battery than I will normally be flying, just in order to reduce the risk of a first flight here. Alright, let's see what she feels like. Got the same differential thrust setup as the twin timber has, since it's programmed into the ESC already. Didn't have to do anything with that. So you can see I've got it trimmed out so that at zero throttle position, if I just put a little bit of rudder input, one or the other side propellers turn on, which is nice for taxiing and water taxiing. Alright, let's see how she does. I might get her in the air a little bit if it feels good. I'm at like 30% power, very low power to get this thing to fly. Still surprisingly slow considering the weight I've added. Not a bad thing. Definitely going to need a little bit of trimming, and full disclosure, the right wing pod I got at the angle I wanted, and the left wing pod ended up glued at a slightly higher angle than I was planning, and so I think there's a good chance that has something to do with funny. Whew. That was zesty. But for a maiden, I'm pretty happy. Flies alright. You could see from the top the slight difference in the or from the side, the difference in the angles of the propeller. So this left wing is slightly, I guess slightly high, yeah, slightly higher than the right wing, and I wanted both to look like the right wing, so I'll probably have to modify that at some point in the near future to get that right. And I just realized, of course, that my little FPV camera on the back is always on, but I forgot to record that on the little screen here, which is a kind of a bummer. No big deal. We'll get the next one.
I love the airplane.
Thanks.
And the Miata.
Thank you very much. Let's get another flight in here. Sounds nice. It definitely wants to bank to the right, and I think that is almost certainly mostly because of that angle that I messed up on the pod on the wing. But I'm just happy with the fact that she's flying, and it's got tons of extra power for what this plane is. The whole point of me doing this was in order to put a centralized high-def camera on the nose without having the propeller and the frame issues, I forget what it's called, with the propeller spinning, that kind of reduces the quality of that video. So this is a heavy airplane. You can see it stall there with no power. It really drops out of the sky pretty quick. But as long as you keep your speed up a little bit, not an issue. Just like any plane. In order to float and to do a nice steep or any kind of approach, you still have to keep some throttle in. Otherwise it stalls out somewhat quickly. Not dramatically. It doesn't really drop a wing. It just kind of falls out of the sky real quick because it's heavy. You see a little downwind under some throttle. It's about 50% throttle there. Downwind. And do the same thing upwind here just to show. We're not dealing with too much wind, but a little bit always makes a difference. 50% throttle into the wind. That was full throttle. I really wanted to dive. Huh. Okay. Sounds cool. I'm getting a low battery alert here. I'm gonna land it. Let's do a nice, show you what power completely off, what it looks like there. So it drops. And land closer to me. Nice not striking those propellers on landing because they're up nice and high. Alright, a little bit of tuning to do, a little bit of dialing everything in, but she flies. I think it's time to put the heavier battery and the camera on the plane and see how that does. Might be a different story, but we'll see. Alright, I've got 4,000 milliamp hour 4S battery in there now, along with the nose mounted high def camera. So this is a lot heavier than the last flight, and we'll see how it does. Runway's clear, taking off. You can feel the weight for sure, but it's flying nicely, with the exceptions of the yaw or the bank issue from that propeller that's a little bit crooked. I'll fix that and happily fly this more another day. Let's try for a low pass here. Gotta keep that throttle in. This plane probably weighs 4 pounds, something close to it. See how she climbs out. No problems. Plenty of power for the weight. You just got to remember the weight is there when you're flying, because you got to keep that airspeed up a little bit. Oh, I know what I wanted to see is I've got this thing wired up all sorts of wacky ways, considering it's different parts. It's a dual ESC. I had to flip the motors around and the wiring a little bit to get things going the right direction. So I am very curious to see what it does when I flip safe mode on. We will check that in a moment here when we're in a good spot with plenty of altitude to spare. All right, flipping into safe right now. Hands off, look at that. Awesome. I am happy about that. I wasn't sure if perhaps the wiring methods that I used might have reversed some of the channels or had conflicting signals or something like that. So I'm pleased to say that is not the case. All right, let's try for a grass landing here. Okay. Well, probably didn't catch that on this camera, but I pancaked it. Pancaked it pretty hard into the ground on a stall because I forgot to keep the power in. Old habits with this slow stick. It's originally such a floaty airplane. It weighs nothing from the factory, but I've weighed it down so much. Okay, I got a nice fuselage bend. I've broken the pod off of that's no surprise. That's the one that was not the angle I wanted, so that kind of works out. I hate to admit it. This fuselage stick is certainly bent, and it's certainly not the first time this one has bent and been bent back. So that shouldn't be too big a deal. Let me get this cleaned up, and this will probably be a wrap for today as far as this plane is concerned. But I've got another plane with me. Never go to the flying field with just one plane. This is why. All right, guys, I'll catch y'all later. Bye. All right, back real quick, guys. Just wanted to show you once I got the wings off of the twin slow stick, just how much I bent the fuselage. So I pancaked it into the ground. The gear took a lot of impact but didn't seem to break, but then it did flip over, hit the tail down on the ground pretty hard, smashed the camera antenna, and bent the fuselage. So, as well as breaking the motor mount off of the wing, one of the wings. So this is supposed to be straight. That section looks good. That section looks good. Together, not so good. That's okay, it'll bend back until it breaks, and then I'll replace it.